Coming true. October 1st, they said it starts. November 4th, it peaks. And I was like on Sunday saying, get ready today for it to happen. It's here. But the most, and Laura Loomer, we'd already have her on, but her Skype was breaking up. Let's go to her right now. Laura Loomer, thank you so much. Investigative journalist, confronting Hillary, Huma Abedin, confronting the kill Trump thespian activity with Shakespeare in the Park. Great to have you here. You've done some big research. The memo from the CEO of the Mandalay Bay and the casino telling employees to donate to super hardcore leftist cop killer associated groups.
Yeah, I have exclusively obtained an internal memo that Jim Moran, the CEO of MGM Resorts, which owns Mandalay, where this attack took place. And if you read it, you can see that he's telling his employees that he will match donations if they donate to groups like CARE, which is a terrorist organization.
Okay, so for people who don't know, understandingthethreat.com, you went undercover for a long time as a Muslim convert with the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas, and that's what sort of led to your investigative reporting. Give the audience a recap.
So in 2007 and 2008, I worked on a project called, we call it the Muslim Mafia Project. Okay. And I ended up spending 6 straight months undercover with Hamas doing business as CARE. I posed as a Muslim convert. I'm a Christian, but I posed as a Muslim convert at Dar al-Hijra in Northern Virginia. This was the mosque where Anwar al-Awlaki was the imam prior to me getting there. He was the moderate voice of Islam until he popped up as an al-Qaeda leader in Yemen.
You got into CARE before you started working with Hamas, because that's important, because I'm on CARE's watch list for people who don't know. They're one of the biggest Muslim nonprofit organizations
in the U.S.
In the U.S.
Don't know.
And I'm on their watch list. So you did get into CARE first.
When I say CARE, I might as well say Hamas. I use those words interchangeably because CARE is a Hamas organization. Factually, per evidence, it's not just my opinion. Per the largest terrorism financing and Hamas trial in U.S. history, the Holy Land Foundation trial, CARE was identified by the Department of Justice as a Hamas organization. So that's not an opinion, that's just a blatant fact. So I ended up pulling 12,000 pages of documents, preserving them as evidence, showing them that they were involved in fraud, political influence operations on Capitol Hill. And so when you see so many legislators that have policies that are favorable towards the Muslim Brotherhood or CARE specifically, it's because they work political influence operations day in and day out right from their D.C. offices.
Let's explain this for people who may not necessarily know. Why is that a problem? A lot of them just think, well, Hamas does some unsavory stuff, but again, they're under the thumb of Israel, so they're fighting oppressors. Muslim Brotherhood. What are some of the problems with the Muslim Brotherhood in the context that an American organization would be supporting them?
The main problem with the Muslim Brotherhood, as I've testified from the U.S. Senate, is that they have the exact same, per their own documents and per their own bylaws, they have the exact same agenda as al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. So when you hear the term Muslim Brotherhood, they have the exact same goal and agenda as the Islamic State or al-Qaeda. And as far as CARE specifically, or Hamas, Hamas is a designated foreign terrorist organization. That should end the discussion right there. I mean, this is a terrorist organization per the Department of State. So not good people.
If they're a terrorist organization, how is CARE allowed to be on Capitol Hill directly funding and supporting them?
The million-dollar question. There's enough evidence right now to indict CARE for material support of terrorism, right now. Yeah. You remember the timeline of the Holy Land Foundation trial. This trial was adjudicated in 2008, and the largest Islamic charity in the United States at the time it was indicted, the Holy Land Foundation, was funneling millions of money to a foreign designated terrorist organization, Hamas. Yeah. So you've got CARE was on the unindicted list and remains on the unindicted list to this day. But think about the timeline. It's adjudicated in late 2008. Obama takes over in January of 2009. All the investigators that were ready to indict the unindicted co-conspirators in that investigation were told to shut the investigation down by Eric Holder, and they remain on the unindicted co-conspirator list to this day.
SPLC, which the FBI cut ties with over their own, inspiration of domestic terrorism, and then the ADL, which of course is very anti-Trump. So he's funneling in millions of dollars worth of, company shareholder money to fund these, radical Islamic and anti-Trump organizations. And I agree with you, Alex. I think this is a false flag. I don't think that ISIS is just going to claim responsibility for an attack that they didn't have anything to do with. I was on your show about 2 weeks ago, and you and I were discussing how Antifa is now adopting ISIS tactics. And we've seen over the past few months that the left has aligned itself with Islam. We see it through the Women's March. We see it with the way they create their own logos, infusing them with women wearing hijabs, and they cover their face in black attire, just like ISIS, and they wave black flags.
Yeah, the left is merging with radical Islam. Linda Saussure, we're being force-fed it.
Right. Yeah, no.
Well, stay there. Let's talk about this bombshell memo you got that we're retweeting at Real Alex Jones and posting to Infowars.com at Laura Loomer to see it. This is amazing. This is, I mean, we already knew he was funding these groups, but here it is. Absolutely saying that he will match the money if you do it, and then the guy was protected in their hotel. There's no way the maid service for 5 days didn't know what was going on. This thing stinks to high heaven. Stay with us. Laura Loomer, you got this exclusive documentation. You're just such a great sleuth that you've got the owners of Mandalay Bay saying they'll match if you fund any of the basic Antifa support groups. What does your gut tell you about this? I mean, again, if we saw a big rap concert shot up by a white guy, you'd think he was a white supremacist. They would just say that. Or if a Jewish center got attacked, you'd say he's a white supremacist or might be an Islamicist. But just ignore all that, even though ISIS is taking credit. What do you think's happening?
Well, I think that this guy is, a hardcore leftist with Antifa connections who became radicalized through ISIS. And I believe ISIS's claim that they're responsible for this attack because they're claiming that he converted to Islam. And you see a lot of these leftists that are embracing Islam. So I think that it has both Antifa and Islamic, connections. I also think that well,
there's no doubt that there's those. I mean, that's the only thing we've got clear tracks on. The target, the connections, who took credit. My hostage rescue team. I mean, I had a former guy that ran CIA operations on yesterday. I talk to the president sometimes. It's not like my sources aren't real. Hell, Matt Drudge gave me the only interview in the last 2 years. I have the hostage rescue team telling me the hotel room was full of Antifa and Islamic literature, and they're pissed because their bosses won't give it out. We know. In fact, I'm so conservative, I'm saying we don't. Well, then the hostage rescue team's lying to me. Well, the same folks told my reporters, get out of here a few days before what happened in Oregon. So these are real sources. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I believe you, and I'm in agreement with you, and I'm sorry I keep looking at my phone, but I'm getting live-time updates from employees who are working inside the MGM Resort, and they're telling me
and see, we're getting all these, too, at Real Alex Jones, which is great. I'm glad Laura's on them. Look at the tips. Give us updates. Laura, tell us what's happening.
So I'm being told that the killer was a Platinum member, and Platinum members tend to have easy contact with hotel executives. So it is possible that the shooter, Stephen Paddock, had a relationship with Jim Moran, the CEO of MGM Resorts. And he
was a very successful person. He gambled for 20 plus years successfully. It's like a job to him. He did it mathematically. He did it because it was a way to have a fun life and he didn't go poor doing it. Now that may have changed. I don't know. The hotels know. They know whether he lost money or something because he never would have gambled for a second without putting a card in. Because you don't get your points and stuff. If you don't have your card in the machine, you don't get your comps.
But still no clue as to why he would do something like this.
No clue whatsoever. Steve did anything he wanted to do whenever he wanted to do it. He was an independently wealthy, no ties attached guy. If he wanted to get on a plane and go to Japan and have sushi tomorrow, he did that. Now, he probably tried to get the casino to pay for it by saying he was going to go to a casino there or something, but this will all come out if the casinos aren't lying. They comp him, I mean, he got lots of money in comps. To have him gamble with them, they would comp him for lots, okay?
And it's also noteworthy that Jim Moran's wife, Heather Moran, I'm reading this from my phone right now from sources, she served in Obama's administration. So she was an Obama administration employee.
Well, Laura, let me just give you credit here. And I know we've been discussing and talking about you being here at InfoWars. I think if we hire you, what we need to do is have you in charge of our Twitter sleuthing, because we have all these private messages coming in, but you end up getting the documents. We have a great crew. You're the type of folks we need. I think we just need to go ahead and do it, because we've been discussing getting you actually to work for InfoWars. And I think not just your investigative journalism, but how you got the document, obviously, from employees, and now you're talking to them in live time and finding out who's real and getting the documents. I mean, this is true journalism, what you're engaging in.
Right, and one more thing that also just gives more evidence to the ISIS connection is an employee who works for Mandalay told me that she went to the union offices, right? And all of the doors are plastered with those. Do you remember those refuse fascism signs with the woman, the Democratic signs with the woman in the hijab?
Yes,
that we saw all of,
Linda Sarsour.
Those are plastered all over the union office for MGM casinos.
Oh, we've got. Do you have photos of that yet?
I'm going to be obtaining photos, and I'm going to, release them as soon as I obtain them. I have multiple sources on the ground, employees of MGM who are sending me information.
There's no doubt, Laura Loomer. I don't know how you do it. You're a true. I'm not kissing your butt, but this is what journalists used to do. What she's doing, working sources. This is incredible. The police are being told not to say what happened, I guess not to create panic, and they don't want to give ISIS a victory, and I get that's the old policy until the 90s is don't talk about terrorism. You can't let them do this then and use it against the Second Amendment. Plus, I'm not under martial law, so I want the truth to come out. Now, Craig's got sources. He won't even get into them with me, but he said, yeah, you're in the right direction. But I have my other sources, and they're like dead on this guy was ISIS. He was getting money for his gambling, millions a year. They were trying to recruit Westerners, they said 2 years ago. He pledged allegiance 6 months ago. The White House has the video. We have that from White House sources. And I got to say, I love the president. I like the president, and he's. But I think this is wrong. But regardless, there are multiple shooters. Why is that important? We're going to go over some of the acoustics evidence in a minute, because it shows the whole story is not true. Solomon, what do you think about the situation now in hindsight as we get more distance on this and as more comes out?
Well, Alex, I always look at the big picture. When everyone gets confused and starts agonizing over the small details, I take a couple steps back and scan the horizon, if you will, and consider what the big picture may be. Who benefits from these mass shootings? Why do they keep happening? Why are they always liberal Democrats that do the shooting? Why are they always on psychotropic drugs? And why are those facts always ignored by the radicals on the left and the mainstream news media? Why is it always just about the gun control narrative immediately and ferociously? So I scratch my head. I'm like, okay, somebody benefits from this, and it certainly wasn't the shooter in this case. We can see if he was even, in fact, the shooter at all. Either they smoked him, after he shot everybody up, or he didn't even get to do that before they smoked him. So this case stinks to high heavens. There's a lot of things that don't match up with what the public's being told. I think one of the main things is those security the footage from the security cameras around Mandalay Bay. They're everywhere. You're not going to go anywhere in that hotel without being captured. So I understand, as a federal criminal investigator, protecting the case and safeguarding that forensic evidence for the prosecutions that may and hopefully are coming. But at some point, those pieces of footage will be released to the public unless there's a big government cover-up. If there's a big government cover-up, those pieces of footage will go away. Nobody will ever see or hear from them.
All we've got are pieces. We can't seem to figure out what the puzzle is supposed to look like. John Mitchell resigns as the head of CREEP and says that he wants to spend more time with his family. I mean, that sounds like bullshit. We don't exactly believe that.
Oh, but it's touching. Forget the myths that the media's created about the White House. The truth is, these are not very bright guys, and things got out of hand.
Hunt's come in from the cold. Supposedly he's got a lawyer with $25,000 in a brown paper bag.
Follow the money.
What do you mean?
can't tell you that.
But you could tell me
No, I have to do this my way. You tell me what you know, and I'll confirm. I'll keep you in the right direction if I can, but that's all. Just